Still thinking about this thing to do with selflessness, passion, identity. I started thinking about it in terms of, would the world be a better place if people had less powerful feelings, if we were all a bit more blasé about everything, or at least Buddhist and detached about everything. I don't know. But that's, for me, that's moved in a particular direction toward kind of gender identity. It's a well-worn territory, but I guess I'm trying to think of it for myself, really. Yeah. I mean, the distinct relationship I have to it, and if I can just kind of preface this with just thinking about what I'm going to think about, it's to do with, what is the relationship between certain kinds of actions, maybe political actions or ideological behaviours, ideologically driven behaviours, and how you think of yourself, what kinds of things you think about, what kind of self-definition you have, and then following on from that, what kinds of further actions result indirectly as a result of that self-redefinition. So you start out doing one thing, maybe for political reasons. It causes you to change your view of yourself, and that changed view of yourself causes you to do a set of other things that perhaps you weren't anticipating, and which are, in a sense, quite defining or redefining of who you are. So it becomes a kind of virtuous circle or a vicious circle or a circle of redefinition. And the most vivid, I guess, example, if it is an example, I'm not sure, but experience I have from my own life is being kind of involved in a men's movement in the 1980s. The men's movement in the 1980s is quite different to the men's movement now. From what little I know of the men's movement now, it's to do with, fairly militant equal rights, as if men are oppressed in some way. I don't really get that. The men's movement in the 1980s wasn't about that. It was more to do with supporting the women's movement. It was primarily about that. At least that was its original inception. And then latterly a little bit about not so much rights, but offering men the possibility of slightly different ways of being that weren't perhaps so militaristic, or weren't perhaps so aggressive, weren't so classically phallic. It was to do with that, really. And I was tangentially involved in that, or at least I was involved in men's groups at the time. I just went along to one actually once because it sounded interesting on this poster I saw. I went along, and it was just a bunch of guys, and we just sat around talking every Tuesday night, and that's what we did. But it was quite interesting. And it was to do with all those kind of politics issues. And that developed into a series of more kind of politically motivated actions. Like the one that most sticks in my mind is we used to run a crash support group. So that, the idea was, the ideas were twofold. What we did was run a creche, a childcare thing, and the most pragmatic aim of that was to free up women's time to do political activities. So if there was a women's group meeting, or if a group of women wanted to go off to a demo, because it was the time of the women's camp at Greenham Common, if a group of women wanted to do that, we would do the creche support thing and look after the kids. So it had that kind of very pragmatic purpose, but there was notionally an ideological purpose behind it as well, which was to kind of put men back into the nurturing role. It was that kind of thing. Provide examples for children of men being nurturing and not being absent. So it was to do with all that, really. I mean, looking back on it, it was a kind of paedophile's dream, because there's no CRB checks or anything like that. It could have been a complete nightmare, but as far as I know, it was fine. So yeah, we used to do that kind of stuff. But what I found, and I don't think I was the only one, is that just that kind of activity. Oh, actually, I should just say, because there was that men like me were characterised at the time as new men. The new man, that's how we were characterised, as opposed to the old man, which is like Conan the Barbarian or something. Where were these new men? I remember a cartoon at the time, and it was a kind of field guide to finding new men. There was a cartoon showing where you would find this rare breed of man, and it was by the bottle bank at the recycling station. That's where you'd find new man. And there was a cartoon of this skinny little guy, looked a bit like me, glasses, wearing a t-shirt that said, "I wish I had a womb." Come on, pups. Guy, come here. Guy, come up. I keep these dogs apart. It's fine, no problem. Go on, you two. Come on. Good boy. So yeah, so we had this t-shirt. So yeah, that's the guy. Guy, come here. Guy, come on. Come on, he's been very well behaved, this dog, recently, so I'm going to put him on his lead just to make sure it stays that way. Come here, Guy. Guy. Good boy. Yes, very good. See how well he's behaved here? Good boy. Alright. Make sure it stays like that. Oh yeah, so I wish I had a womb. So that was the image of new men at the time. I mean, it all got a bit intense, of course, and a new man kind of mutated into new laddism. And new laddism mutated into raunch culture, which we have now. So the pendulum's gone back quite a long way the other way. Yeah, but alongside that kind of ideological thing, and alongside those quite pragmatic and slightly ideological behaviours like running creches for kids, I certainly found that it was affecting other bits of behaviour, just slightly. But kind of identity displays, the things you would do as a guy. You know, I just found myself sitting differently. Which is weird. You know, it became alright to sit with your legs crossed, not with your ankle over your knee the way that cowboys and men do, but with your knee crossed over your knee, you know. It became alright to sit like that, or it felt more normal to sit like that, or to speak in a certain way felt more normal, or to talk about certain subjects felt more normal. You know, it became more of an identity possibility, which was interesting. You know, it was freeing. But at the same time, it's a bit odd, really. And possibly coincidentally, actually, at that time, that was the time, round about that time at least, which when I had my first and so far only homosexual relationship, gay relationship. And I do mean real relationship. I don't just mean like a circle jerk with some guys who were as lonely as you were. You know what I mean? It was a real kind of boyfriend-boyfriend thing for a while, which is interesting and weird, which might be totally unconnected. But I don't know, maybe not, you know. Maybe it's part of that same gestalt, you know. You start off doing something as simple as looking after the kids for a while, and before you know it, you're on a slippery slope to all that, really. Anyhow, I don't know. I mean, I'm quite glad I had those experiences. I wouldn't want to repeat them particularly, but having the possibility of another kind of way of being in the world was liberating for a while. Don't know how that's got to do with passions. Well, only I guess not so much to do with the dulling or the enhancing of passions, and you know, what effect that might have. But more to do with the relationship between the different kinds of passions one has and the different, yeah, we'll go this way, and the different behaviours that emerge out of that. Some of which are probably more conducive to a better world than others. And of course, if you want to reduce the population, turning everybody gay is a really good way to do it. Yeah, maybe we should all form creche support groups. How do I turn this off? I've forgotten. I've got a mental block, hold on. Turn it around. Oh yeah, stupid.